Reading used to be one of the most entertaining activities you could partake in before the age of the internet and the dopamine culture. Picking up a good book and reading used to be very stimulating, entertaining, and a great way to learn, and it can still be that way. So, I'm going to explain to you why you should read, what books to read, and how to get the absolute most out of what you're reading through a process I call interacting with the text, which is much different than just passively reading a book, and you might feel like you'll forget everything right after that. So, why should you read? It's a great alternative to scrolling on your phone, feeling like you're wasting hours of your day. You can put down the phone and pick up a book, and over time, as you do that more and more, your focus and concentration will increase, not only for reading, but also for your job, also for other tasks you have to take care of. Really focusing on a book is a good way also to train your concentration. So, what books should you read? This is a very important point because a lot of trendy, popular books may not be the deepest type of books and what you're going to get the most out of if you're reading to improve your life. Now, reading for entertainment and reading fiction, that's also perfectly fine and a valid form of entertainment. But mostly what I'm going to be focusing in on in this video is reading nonfiction to improve your life. So, what type of books do you want to read? As I've been getting into more reading about psychology and spirituality and a lot of different topics I'm interested, also relationships, I've found that books written before the year 2000 or 1990 are generally much deeper and more impactful because they were written before the age of the internet and before books needed to be trendy and catch people's attention, before all these sort of trends started. So they were written with a deeper presence of mind and have a lot more insights. So whatever topic you want to learn more about, research, see in these books people that have studied a certain field, relationships, intimate relationships, psychology, shadow work, any specific subfield within psychology that you want to look into, any niche area. There's people that have spent their whole lives studying these topics and condense that all into a book that you can read in 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 hours, depending on how long the book is. So you're getting 30 years of that person's experience just in a short amount of time. So that's why reading can be so beneficial. And I'd also, this is the book I'm going to be using as an example for this video. And I'd also encourage you to pick up physical books. At least that's my preference. And that's going to be how you're going to be able to interact with the text the most, as I'm going to explain in a moment. Because, first of all, we're online and we're on a screen all day anyways. So it's nice to just pick yourself up a nice physical book and be able to get away from the screen. And also, you can take this to a park, and it's just nice to have the physical copy of the book. You can write in it and highlight in it. So I'm going to explain now the process of interacting with the text, which is, as you can see, I'll just start out by showing you, as I go through the book, for me, I have 2 different colors of highlighters that I use, and if you want to use one color, that's perfectly fine. I just find that it's a little more engaging to use 2 colors, and the 2 different colors don't mean anything. It's just to keep myself engaged. So as I'm going through the book, certain sections that I want to come back to or that I just find more important, I'll go ahead and highlight that, as you can see. And then also, just as I'm going, you can see here I wrote in the margin a little bit. As I'm going, I'll write in the margins to kind of summarize the sections I'm reading in my own words or relate it back to something else I've read recently. or just put my thoughts in it. And this is really interacting with the text, going through, highlighting the words, and then interacting with it by now giving my own thoughts in the margins or just summarizing what I've read in my own words. That's going to help you significantly with retaining the information you've read and kind of just putting that in your neural network and assimilating that information more. And also, when you're reading, you want to be focused. So, what I'll do is, if you have the phone in the room there, studies have shown that just having the phone on your desk in sight, that will diminish your ability to focus. So what I recommend is turning off your phone and putting it in a different room. That's what I've found most effective, because even if you turn it off and you know you have it in there in the room, it can still be a temptation because we're so addicted to our phones, a lot of us. So what would be best is just to turn off the phone and put it in a completely different room, out of sight, out of mind. Just focus on what's in front of you, focus on the book. And then the other part of the process here, as you can see, there's sticky notes sticking out of the book. And this is just what I find the most important in sections that I know that I may want to come back to and read it again. I'll put a sticky note sticking out of the book. So this is Jung's Map of the Soul, a great book. And I'm going to use this example of synchronicity, a section where it talks about synchronicity. I put a sticky note so I can come back to that. And then let me just give you an example of something I highlighted here and also assimilate it in my own words at the bottom. So here goes the quote about synchronicity. In a random universe, this falling together of need and opportunity or desire and satisfaction would be impossible, or at least statistically improbable. These unforgettable mysteries that are embodied in synchronistic events transform people. Lives are turned in new directions, and contemplation of what lies behind synchronistic events leads consciousness to profound, perhaps even to ultimate levels of reality. When an archetypal field is constellated and the pattern emerges synchronistically within the psyche and the object, in the objective, non-psychic world, one has the experience of being in Tao, or Tao. And what becomes available to consciousness through such experiences is foundational, a vision into as much of ultimate reality as humans are capable of realizing. Falling into the archetypal world of synchronistic events feels like living the will of God. So you may not understand all of that because you haven't read this book, but now I'm going to read to you the note I wrote at the bottom of this page, kind of summing that up in my own words. I wrote, the way things work out would be impossible in a world of pure causality. It's too perfect, too inexplicable for that model. Truly, it is synchronistic. This is why events happen at certain times that ultimately lead to growth. So that was kind of my summary of that. And then what I'll do when I'm finished reading this book, I'll go back to the little sticky notes I wrote and I'll write a note of that and put it in my note-taking system, which is Obsidian, and that kind of connects this is an optional part, you don't have to go this far with it, or you can figure out what works for you. But what I do when I'm done is go back to these sections with the sticky notes, kind of read through it again, see what notes I wrote in the margins. And then in my Obsidian, which is, kind of an interconnected note-taking app, I'll then write a paragraph or two of what I got out of that so that now it's easier for me to go back and reference that later. And as a book recommendation for this video, I'll recommend How to Take Smart Notes. If you're interested in that note-taking system of having an interconnected web of notes that you can go back and reference and generate ideas. And it's really just even if you want to take that internalizing what you're reading and interacting with the text to the next level, this is a great book about that. It talks about the Zettelkasten, which is the second brain. That's essentially what the note-taking system is. How to Take Smart Notes by Sanke Arens. And then a few final points is sometimes when you're reading a book I'm reading right now, Collection and Recollection, Jungian Psychology, it's a useful book and I'm getting some good insights out of it, but it's kind of difficult for me to want to just sit there and absorb the book and really get into it. It's a little more dense, it's a little harder to follow. So what I'm doing right now is reading one chapter of that book at a time, and then I have one or two other books I'm also reading. The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita, I go and read 30 minutes of that a day. And then I'm trying to remember the title, Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. That's a book that I'm reading that I'm just really interested in that area in that book, so I can sit and read it for longer periods of time. So it can be useful to have 2 or 3 different books you're reading at once, so that when you're getting tired of reading one book, but you still want to read more that day, you can pick up another book and read that. And depending on your temperament, it could even be one fiction book and one nonfiction if you like to, also just read fiction books for entertainment. I think just try out some of these advice and find what works for you. And when you're reading, interacting with the text, try and just build that focus muscle. Stay as focused as you can. Stay as away from distractions as you can. Something else that can help is meditation or a concentration practice. There's formal concentration techniques you can do. Even just meditating and following the breath and really focusing in on that can train your concentration, and that'll allow you, this kind of all fits together, that'll allow you to concentrate more on the books. Just concentrating on the books alone will build that. Concentration is like a muscle in the body. The more you use it and exercise it, the better you'll be able to get at not getting distracted and being able to focus on the task at hand. So this is also really good for that. So yeah, I think that was I think I about covered everything there. So I encourage you to read some more books, start a reading habit. Start with, if you can only read for 15 minutes, start with 15 minutes a day, then go to 30 minutes a day, then go to an hour a day. And what I'm doing personally is reading at least one book per week. And that's really, I think, achievable if you make it a priority and kind of cut out the time scrolling. It just takes, an hour of reading per day, really, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how long the book is. You'll be able to get through a book per week and really start learning and improving your life through absorbing a lot of profound material that, a lot of great people have put their time into providing this. And one more thing I don't know if I touched on is that a lot of the times the niche books are going to be the best. Just something niche that probably written before the year 2000. Authors would write for a niche audience and they wouldn't mind. It was their passion. They wouldn't mind if not that many people bought the book. Whereas nowadays, it's all about marketing and it's all about mass appeal. So that's why some of these older books can be a lot deeper than the newer material. So yeah, make sure you're reading the right books too, because just because somebody wrote a book, some random guy can publish a book and maybe it's not that useful. So do your research and find the books that are going to have the best impact. Read some reviews, see really what the book is about, and then purchase books in those areas in which you're trying to improve your life. If you're starting a business, read some business books. If you want to improve your relationships, read some relationship and intimate relationship books. Cupid's Poisoned Arrow is really great, just as a recommendation there. I'm only just starting that, but it's a really good book. One last thing I forgot to mention in the video is part of the process of interacting with the text is I'll have a journal ready close by to just come in and write my thoughts. As something impactful, that I'm thinking about in the text. something I want to expound on or how it relates to my life and want to write more in depth about that and just really connect it to my life in a deeper way, then I'll pull out my journal and start writing. So having a journal close by and taking your time reading the book, going back and rereading a page if you need to, take the time to journal and take notes. That's going to go a long way in terms of retaining the information and getting the most out of your reads. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I'll see you in the next one.